We've been told that laziness is a character flaw, that if you're tired, unfocused, or can't seem to get anything done, it must be your fault. You're unmotivated, undisciplined, weak. But what if that's a lie? What if you're not lazy at all, In today's world, we're bombarded by notifications, noise, opinions, videos, and infinite scroll. Your brain is constantly digesting input, and it's exhausted. The fog you feel isn't failure, it's fatigue. And in this video, we'll explore why your mind feels broken, why focusing is harder than ever, and most importantly, how to heal. Not by doing more, but by doing less with intention. You wake up already tired. You stare at your to-do list, scroll a bit, maybe open a few tabs, but nothing moves. You tell yourself you'll start in 10 minutes. Then, the day disappears, and by the time night comes, guilt whispers in your ear, you're just lazy. But what if that's not true? What if laziness isn't your default, but a misdiagnosis? See, we live in a world that rewards output but rarely questions input. When your mind is constantly bombarded by stimulation, dopamine hits from social media, rapid content shifts, endless noise set stops functioning the way it's supposed to. Focus breaks, clarity fades, and what's left isn't laziness. It's mental overstimulation, disguised as inertia. Laziness implies you don't want to act, but most people desperately want to change. They just can't seem to access the mental silence required to do so. And that's not a failure of character. It's a failure of space. Let's talk about dopamine, not the villain, but the misunderstood architect of modern exhaustion. Dopamine is your brain's reward chemical. It spikes when something new, exciting, or pleasurable happens. But here's the catch. In a world of infinite novelty, every scroll, like sound and switch, dopamine spikes constantly. You're not just receiving information, you're binging stimulation every minute of the day. Now imagine trying to sit still and read a book after hours of TikTok or Reels. It feels impossible, not because you're lazy, but because your brain has adapted to high-frequency reward. Anything slow, intentional work, creative thinking, real conversation feels boring, even if it's meaningful. This is the dopamine trap. We crave stimulation, consume more, feel numb, then blame ourselves for losing drive. But it's not discipline you lack, it's dopamine balance. Your brain wasn't built for constant hits. And recovery starts not with effort, but with awareness. You don't need to run a marathon to feel tired. Your brain, unlike your body, can burn out silently. This is invisible fatigue, the exhaustion you can't see but always feel. It shows up as forgetfulness, mood swings, scattered thinking, emotional dullness, and that vague fog you can't shake. You think, I slept enough. I didn't even do much today. But mental energy isn't about activity, it's about cognitive load. When you're constantly switching tasks, reacting to pings, absorbing other people's lives online, your brain works overtime without rest. It's like keeping dozens of tabs open, all day and then wondering why your system crashes. The worst part, this fatigue isn't obvious. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And over time, you begin to identify with it. You believe you're a low-energy person, but in reality, you've just never given your mind a moment to breathe. Stillness isn't lazy, it's healing. Once upon a time, focusing was natural. You could read for an hour, sit in silence, or write a page without checking your phone. But today, even 10 minutes of concentration feels unbearable. The moment discomfort rises, your hand reaches for stimulation. Scroll, tap, switch. Focus isn't gonna, it's fragmented. Not because you're weak, but because your brain has been trained to expect micro-rewards every few seconds. It's not that you're unable to concentrate, that your concentration now competes with an entire world of addictive alternatives. Apps, content, alerts, they're not neutral. They're engineered for interruption. The more fragmented your attention, the easier you are to manipulate. And slowly, without realizing it, your mind begins to feel like a cracked mirror reflecting pieces, but never the whole. But here's the truth. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it can be rebuilt. It doesn't start with doing more, it starts with removing what's in the way. Every time you check your phone, scroll a feed, or jump from one thought to another, you're consuming input, and that input has a cost. It takes mental bandwidth, emotional space, and cognitive clarity. Think of your mind as a room. Constant input is like dragging in noise, clutter, strangers, and flashing lights every minute. At some point, you can't think clearly. You can't find anything. You can't breathe. But here's the real danger. When you're always consuming, you stop creating. You stop generating your own thoughts, ideas, and direction. You become reactive, not intentional. Input overload leads to output paralysis, and slowly, you lose touch with what you actually want because you've drowned in what everyone else wants you to see. To reclaim your mind, you must start filtering what enters it. Boundaries are not restrictions, they are protection. Healing overstimulation isn't about doing more. It's about doing less with more intention. It's about subtraction, removing the noise, choosing silence, reclaiming stillness not as punishment, but as medicine. Start small. Turn off notifications. Schedule blocks of screen-free time. Walk without your phone. Sit in boredom on purpose. Detox your dopamine. Give your brain the permission to be unentertained. It will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will crave distraction. But lean into that. Discomfort hits the gateway to clarity. Subtraction isn't emptiness. It's space. And in that space, your original self starts to return the version of you that could focus, dream, create, and care. Your soul has been whispering beneath the noise. You just haven't heard it in a while. After the subtraction comes the return. Slowly, things start to shift. The fog lifts. You begin to remember what focus feels like, what flow feels like, what it feels like to be in control rather than at the mercy of inputs. You'll read longer, think deeper, feel calmer. Instead of anxiety and guilt, you'll feel space. That clarity won't arrive in a single day, but it will build. And one morning, you'll realize you're not lazy. You never were. You were just overloaded, exhausted, and disconnected from your internal rhythm. And now, you're coming back to yourself, to stillness, to a life that moves slower but feels infinitely more alive. So here's the truth. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not lazy. You're just living in a system designed to overwhelm you. But awareness is the first key. And now, you hold it. Your journey doesn't start with force. It starts with stillness. Subtract the noise, reclaim your clarity. Choose what enters your mind and protect it like a garden. Because inside that stillness lives the version of you you've been trying to become all along. And that person, they're not waiting for motivation. They're waiting for space. If this video resonated, share it with someone who feels stuck but doesn't know why. Comment below. Stillness is strength. Let the world know you're reclaiming your mind. And remember, you were never lazy. You were simply and now you're finally free.